thought you were going to do an announcement.
Oh, sorry.
I was waiting to hear something there, it didn't actually happen. Good evening, everyone. I think we are just now, there was no throng in the car park when I just went to look, so I think we're probably good to go. Welcome, thank you for turning out on this fresh evening. I was just saying we've got it better though than the Republicans over in Iowa, who I think are actually having their caucus at minus 25 degrees with a wind chill factor. So 0 is not as bad as it could be, but I am delighted to see you all here. Thank you very much for turning up. I'm Roger Hurst, I'm your Police Fire and Crime Commissioner. So we'll introduce ourselves first, then I'll sort of give you 5 minutes on where I think we are on the big picture across the county. But above all, we are here to hear from you, your concerns, see if we can answer questions this evening. If we can't answer this evening, then we will take it away and see if we can answer it. We'll publish, well, I'm being recorded as we speak, wave at the public. If you can use the mic, it really helps with people who might be watching online. Sometimes we get 3, sometimes we get 300, depends how the evening is. So it really is helpful if you would use the mic, please. Darren has a roving mic and we'll come round for questions and things. As I say, we'll post the recording online, and so if you don't actually want to be recognised, don't say your name. The camera will keep pointing at me anyway. If you do want to be recognised, then please say who you are when you answer the question or whatever. Yeah, and we'll publish the Q&A as well online with a note of the meeting afterwards. So that's me, please.
Evening everyone, Mark Eaglestone, Essex Fire, Southwest Group Commander. So I have 12 stations, 3 of those being Grays, Allsett and Corrie.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Good evening everyone, my name is Tony Atkin, I'm the District Commander for Thurrock.
Good evening, Michael Deneen, Assistant Director for Investigation Enforcement and Community Safety.
Hi, so you've got me, you've got Fire and Rescue, you've got Police, and you've got the local council all represented here. Hopefully between us we can actually make it look like a partnership that's making a difference. That is our ambition in life. So just really a few words from me. We are at a point now where after a few years of investment, I think we're in pretty good shape in both policing and in fire and rescue. In fire and rescue, we've invested pretty heavily in the last few years in our protection activity. We've invested as well in more prevention work, and that's having the benefit both in terms of reducing the number of dwelling fires and call-outs for other hazards. What we are seeing is an increase in other special services call-outs, which is where we are as a fire and rescue service collaborating more, particularly with the health service, around people collapsing behind closed doors. Please come in, we've only just kicked off, so we've just introduced ourselves. You've missed us giving you our names, but yeah, we'll please make yourselves comfortable. And I think that's, as I said, that seems to be working. I think the number of dwelling fires down around 12% in the last year. The number of people killed and seriously injured also falling quite healthily, which is good to know. There's obviously still got to be more to do. We certainly need to do more, I think, still around the protection work. We have another inspection from Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary and the Fire and Rescue Service of Essex County Fire and Rescue Service due out in the next couple of weeks. I hope very much that will show a continued improvement. What you may not have clocked is that we have had the cause for concern over the culture of the Fire and Rescue Service lifted, which is really good to see. I'm expecting to have no causes for concern in the next inspection, and to see that our overall grading is making progress. But the proof of that pudding will be in the eating probably within the next 2 weeks. They promises it by the end of January, so we'll see. On the policing side, again, it's actually been even heftier investment there, very much with the backing of central government. So you'll be aware of the central government plan for 20,000 extra cops. We've effectively doubled our share of that with your support, with the support of the public of Essex. So we would have had 450 from the government programme. We've actually had 905 additional cops recruited. To do that over the last 5 years, it's been a long and determined investment programme. Lots of recruitment, lots of outreach to all aspects of Essex communities, asking them to come and join us, and they have done so, which is really good. We've been more successful in that than many other parts of the country, and really pleased. It does mean that to expand by 905, you have to recruit as well to replace those who leave. We normally lose between 200 and 250 a year, so you can do that mental math, I'm sure, as quickly as I can. That's about 2,000 people, 2,000 police officers hired in the last 5 years, out of our total of 3,800. So that is a lot of new people, and a lot of people in training. At the moment, I think we've got about 600 people in the police college being trained, not yet qualified for independent patrol, and that is something where we are going to have to keep on investing over the next couple of years to make sure those officers get to independent patrol and can be deployed by our district commanders so as to make a difference for you. We've obviously backed that with quite a lot of capital investment as well. We've had some good backing for the Safer Streets Fund. We've made local investments. We've also got antisocial behaviour hotspots and serious violence grip hotspots. You'll probably be aware of the fact that very much Trafford 100 Station, the area around Lakeside, has been one of those hotspots, and we've had both grip funding for that and antisocial behaviour funding for that to make a difference there. I think it has made a difference. We've certainly seen crime coming down now across the county for the last year. Some areas of crime have been coming down for longer than that, so these things that were really pleased. One of our early focuses was homicide, again with central government backing, and we've reduced the level of homicide across the county in the last 5 years by over 40%, particularly drug-driven homicide down by about 70%. And we've also managed to reduce burglary by about 42% and antisocial behaviour by nearly 2/3, actually, over 60%. So that's a 5-year track record. Most recently, actually the last year, seeing quite a lot of that delivered, so over 30% reduction in antisocial behaviour in the last year alone. And we've actually started to turn the tide as well with some of the more intractable sorts of crime, stuff that's really hard to get to grips with. So domestic abuse down about 16% in the last year, and we are also successfully managing to bring more people to justice for some of the most serious offences like rape, where we've managed to increase our solved rate threefold in the last 3 years, which is a big step forward. So that's the kind of stuff that we are doing. It's not unadulterated success. I have to say that since COVID, things like burglary have started to tick up again. And what we've also seen very much in areas like yours, along the western side of the county, I would say, is a big increase in vehicle theft. And that is focused both at the top end and the bottom end of the car market. So Jaguar Land Rover and Ford Fiestas seem to be the vehicles of choice for being taken off people's drives. Obviously there must be a ready market out there for the parts for those. I believe with the Fiesta it's something to do with the fact that they no longer make them, so it's actually quite difficult to get parts for them, so they're being stolen for the parts, which is particularly galling. That's what I've been told anyway. You may know better than that, Chief Inspector.
I think nationally vehicle thefts have gone up, and that there's a number of reasons for that. I think what Mr. Hurst said is correct, that parts now, especially the electronic parts, have been quite hard to source due to supply chains over the last couple of years due to COVID. So it's made the older cars more desirable for those parts. But technology has changed as well. We had a huge issue of car thefts back in the 90s. I remember immobilisers were brought in and suddenly car theft started dropping. We've now moved to keyless entry, and there are devices on the market that are easily available to purchase, that are not illegal to possess, that are being used in order to signal boost, for example. And we're seeing that as a crime trend now that we're having to tackle. We're not tackling it alone, we're looking at what the manufacturers could do, because these thefts not only impact on police, they impact on the manufacturers, because if you know you're going to buy a car that is potentially going to be targeted, is potentially easy to steal, you're not going to buy it. So the manufacturers themselves know that, and they're looking at technology to bring in around that to prevent that.
Yeah, and I think Jaguar Land Rover have actually just rolled out an upgrade on all the vehicles they've sold since 2022, started 2022. I test drove a really nice new car myself the other day, and it had this proximity entry, they call it. You just walk up to it and it opens. Didn't buy it. It's like not having a locked car, as far as the criminals are concerned. Keeps out people who are honest, but doesn't keep out those who aren't. So just a word of warning there. So, as I said, some progress, some good recent progress, but actually there's still a good chunk more to do, particularly around rape, serious sexual assault and domestic abuse, particularly around drug-driven crime, drug-driven violence. We're busting county lines, but they do spring up again. It is the long-term approach. I mean, the Violence and Vulnerability Partnership, which you are part of here in Thurrock, is delivering distraction, redirection, re-education and change for young people who are getting involved in gangs. It has changed the direction in terms of the rise in knife-driven crime across the county, but it's a 10-year programme. What we have to do is make sure that the 12 to 15-year-olds of 2-3 years ago do not become the 22 to 25-year-olds in 10 years' time who are doing what today's 22 to 25-year-olds are, which is being involved in gangs and perverting young people. I'm not saying they're beyond hope. We definitely need to work with them, but the people we can change the life choices of are those who are in that younger age bracket, who are just at the fringes of being preyed on by these gangs. 12 to 15 to 16, 17, young people, we can change their lives for the better. We're doing it, but it's not going to really be visible until we've completed that 10-year programme. That was the experience in Glasgow, that was the experience in Cardiff. It's what we're doing very much with here with the police and with partners here in Essex, actually with the fire rescue as well, with the fire breaks. That makes a huge difference to young people's lives. So we've got to stick at it, I think. It's turning a tanker, not a snap solution. I think that's probably enough from me. I'm probably gone over time. I always do. I do apologise. But let's get to questions. Who's first? Please.
Good evening. You mentioned about 20,000 more police officers. 20,000 police officers were removed in 2010. So to get 20,000 back, we're only back to the number where we were in 2010. We're now 14 years down the line. That number should surely be higher than 20,000.
I'll answer for Essex rather than for nationally. So as I said, we've done twice that locally. Nationally, I think some PCCs have been, PFCCs have been like me and done more, some haven't. And there are some parts of the country where they aren't actually back to their 2010 number yet. Just a bit more reflection on it though. 2010, that peak was very short-lived. If you remember, it was when Gordon Brown was hiring into the public sector to try and stop the rise in unemployment. So the actual, if you take Essex, the previously sustained high where we were making a difference to crime was 3,400. We're now at 3,800. So it is considerably more. And you also need to bear in mind that policing's changed in a variety of ways. One of the ways is all cops now have one of these. They can do stuff out and about. They can be more time on patrol. They can do that from Costa Coffee, other coffee shops are available, and be more visible to the public, be approachable. On our figures, that's roughly 10% increase in productivity. So on that basis, you're adding another 380 cops onto the 3,800 that we have, and taking is actually well over 4,000. So we're not just well over our previous high. We are the strongest we've ever been in our 184-year history in numbers terms, but in output, we're also even better than that. You're still not going to catch a cop saying that they've got enough. My dad was a cop, and he never actually saw me get this job, but he did see me stand for it. He knew I was standing for it, and one of his words of advice as a former chief officer of police was, bear in mind, no cop will ever tell you they've got enough resources. They'd be mad to do so, and they won't. So we clearly do need to keep on making sure that we have the capability and capacity, but we are better than we've ever been in that regard. And yes, the population's increased by 9% in the intervening period as well. but we are ahead of that both in terms of the productivity, the capability and the capacity.
Hi. At January's full council meeting on the 31st of this month, there will be a debate with the good people of Thurrock demanding a full investigation into Thurrock's financial dealings. As I'm the councillor, will I be able to stand up and say our two top-level police chiefs welcome and support the residents' demand for a full investigation, and possibly criminal?
You can certainly say that we welcome full transparency, and if that requires a full investigation, then that's what we need to have.
Brilliant. And is that both of you?
It's up to you.
From a policing point of view, if there's evidence of a criminal offence, then we will investigate it. That's our job, and we certainly will do that.
All I want, I'll say you're both in favour. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Not quite sure how you're going to use that one, but listen, it needs looking into, and if there is evidence, it needs looking at.
Commissioner, you mentioned a lot of statistics there which are quite impressive about crime and everything else, but of course that's based on reported crime.
Yeah.
And it's always contentious in terms of what really goes on reported and unreported crime. And there's also a lot of cynicism about it. And one of the concerns, to be honest, I've always had, and I've mentioned it before and a lot of people have, is the issue of 101 service, where it's still slow. I did mention before regarding if you want to report a crime, it goes press 1 for this, press 2 for that, and eventually it gets to press 4 or 5 to report a crime. Surely if it's the police's priorities to reduce crime, then in which case at least it should be number 1 or 2. Now that may sound a bit petty, but it does indicate, you know, the sort of the priorities perhaps the police have. So, and also because of the frustrations I've had on 101, I was advised to ring Crime Stoppers because I thought that would be an option. Mm-hmm. And only last week I rang Crime Stoppers because I saw something suspicious, and it's just for intelligence. And when I rang Crime Stoppers, they wouldn't take the details down unless I knew the people there. And I challenged them on it, and basically they said, no, we'll only hear if you know the people, and then we'll report it as intelligence to the police. So it didn't go recorded at all. So there's the issue of 101, and there's the issue obviously on the Crime Stoppers side. The other thing I just want to mention is you're in Tilbury, and Tilbury suffers every year basically with joyriders, with, you know, going around that are unlicensed without crash helmets and everything else, particularly in the summer months. I mean, sometimes it's like the Wild West out there where you've just driven into. So what efforts will be made this summer basically to try and stop that? Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. So, Crime Stoppers, I'm a bit bamboozled by what you said there, and I might actually ask to speak to you afterwards and get a bit more detail on that, because normally Crime Stoppers is a really good way of reporting crime and getting confidence that it's going to be fed back to the police on a completely anonymous basis and very effectively. So that's the first such comment I've heard in 8 years, and I'd like to understand it in case something's going wrong, we can put it right at the very start. In terms of reporting crime against crime, that has been an issue for police services. The most recent one was Greater Manchester, where they were missing out on huge amounts of crime because of their ineffectiveness reporting. We get inspected for our crime data integrity by the inspectorate, and we get an outstanding here in Essex, which it's an independent check. We also, the Chief Constable and I, commission an independent survey from a company called SMSR, their professional survey, people who do professional service professionally. We do that every quarter because we don't just want to rely on the reported crime statistics, and it tells us what people perceive in terms of crime trends and where public confidence in policing is. And of course there's the Crime Survey of England and Wales. We can't know what isn't reported, but we do try to understand what is and isn't reported. So, you know, we're told we've got 95% crime data integrity. our survey tells us that whilst public confidence has fallen from its COVID high of 82%, it's currently running at about 77%, which is a good deal better than it was 8 years ago when it was under 60, and a good deal better than our close neighbours in London. Crime Survey of England and Wales says crime's down by much more than our figures say it is, or indeed than our local survey says it is. I think that has something to do with the fact that the Crime Survey's questions haven't really kept up with reality, because in the last 9 years we've had quite a number of new, really important new laws passed. Stalking and harassment was not a crime, it is now. Controlling and coercive behaviour was not a crime. Women were being abused in domestic settings horribly, and some men. And that is now a crime, it's something we can deal with. Ketamine, other legal highs, they were not crimes, they are now. That's had a big impact on the drugs stats that we have. So adding all those together, actually they are real crimes that are now properly recognised as crimes where the police can make an intervention. It's more work for the police, but it's right that it be dealt with. And the Crime Survey of England and Wales doesn't capture that. I think it's capturing the stuff about how homicide's down, how burglary's down, how theft from the person is down, how robbery's down. We do see that as well, but it's not capturing the much better reporting we're getting, for instance, of rape and serious sexual assault. Because we're supporting victims better and we are hearing more. We are not yet helping enough of those victims get justice through the court system. We're not yet stopping enough of that happening. It is real crime and it needs dealing with. Sorry, is that 101?
Just ask. But my question was about the unreported crime.
Yeah.
Because if 101 doesn't improve,
Can we just?
because 101 on average. I mean, I've rung it a couple of times in the last 2 months or so. Honestly, it still takes both times 40 odd minutes to get through. Yeah, and sometimes a few months ago it's 5 minutes. I know it's a bit hit and miss, but it's still a long time. And as I said, dial 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for this, 4 for this, 5 for that, and at the end you get to it. And my other point was about the joyriders outside or in Tilbury, or indeed in Thurrock. Yeah.
I'm going to hand over to the Chief Inspector in a second. But just on 101, absolutely. 8 years ago it was an average wait of half an hour. We got it down to 5 minutes. It's back up to 15 minutes now. It's too high. One of the big investments in the budget we're just approving for the coming year is £1 million into the control room to help sort out particularly some of those issues.
Thank you. I'll deal with the joyriders issue. That's something that I'm aware of, particularly around Calcutta Road. Aware that we've had issues over the last few months. We've seen a lot of police coming into the area. It might not be visible because part of the operation that we've had running to tackle that type of offending is under Operation Bike, and we've had both uniformed and plainclothes officers coming in. Obviously, we know that that's causing an impact to the community, but we also know with joyriders on bikes, we've got to be very careful about how we tackle them. We cannot get behind them on a police car, chase them, because if they then come off and sadly suffer a really serious accident, then there are repercussions there from a policing point of view. Is that right for our officers to be doing that? And could our officers have contributed, in some cases, to a death? So we need to tackle it in a way that is going to preserve life, because that is the ultimate aim of the police, is to preserve life, prevent crime, and do it in a way that brings to justice those that are committing this offence. Now, we've seen some really good results over the last couple of months. I know we've identified a number of people involved. We've seen a number of arrests, and in fact, I think we've got someone that was due to be sentenced in relation to some of the off-road biking. Tilbury is not unique in Thurrock. I know we've had off-road bikes across the district, and one of the things that we implemented last year with the support of the council and the PFCC's office was Operation Caesar, which was bringing quad bikes. So we now have 2 dedicated quad bikes that get deployed on hard to reach areas such as Blackshot or Sip. And as a result of that operation, we've actually seen a reduction of 55% from September 2022 to 2023 compared to the previous September 21 to 22 in calls to police around nuisance bikes. And that's been as a result of that operation. And it's around about having visible patrols of those officers on the quad bikes, but also tackle those people that are identified as using off-road bikes in an antisocial behaviour way. And we've seen a number of prosecutions and a number of people having their bikes taken away from them under a Section 59 warning. So we've done a lot, but there is a lot more that we can do. I take the point around the summer next year, and that will be something that we will plan into. The biggest issue for policing is we are data-led. So we, as Mr. Hurst said, we can only tackle the problems if we know the problems exist. And in some cases, such as the Tilbury bikes, one of the issues that we had was things weren't being reported to us, and it was only reported to us when it got so bad. So we're now coming in at the end part of a problem, whereas I would have wanted to be in there when it was first identified, because if we nipped it in the bud right at the beginning, we wouldn't have had the issues later on. And that's the same with antisocial behaviour right across the board. We've seen some really good results with Thurrock. In fact, up to December this year, we'd seen a reduction in antisocial behaviour, reported antisocial behaviour, by 31.4%. Now, that's great news, but it's only great news if that's a true reduction. If people are not reporting it, then and we're not being aware of it, then we can't tackle it. I've spoken to a number of councillors, and I know there's a couple here. My key message that I've sent out through the councillors to go out to the communities is that if you are seeing things happening, you must report it to police. You can't put it on Facebook because we don't pick it up on Facebook. It's emails into using our online system to report it, going through 101, or if it's an emergency, that 999. Because if it doesn't come to us, we're not going to be aware of it, and we can't problem solve it. So, if tonight, if you take that back to your friends and family, people who live within the community, if you see something, report it. It's really, really important.
Thank you.
Even again, Roger. On the 27th of October 2022, the last time your good self was in Thurrock at the Homesteads Hall, we asked then about ShopSafe. ShopSafe is something that's running in Grays and is totally free for the traders there. You said to us then that you would look into funding for the traders in Corrigan Town Centre. On the 2nd of February 2023, I asked Jane Gardner the same question, and basically we still haven't got an answer in Corrigan Town Centre reference funding. Not that someone hasn't been round asking questions. Do you want it? Yes, the traders will certainly want it, but they want it free, the same as it is in Grays Town Centre.
So we've certainly written back to you and explained where we are, and we will provide some funding, but you're saying it's free in Grays Town Centre. I believe Grays Town Centre has a system to which the traders in Grays contribute. It may be indirectly via their business district association, but I don't think we provide it free anywhere. We certainly would like to see it, and we're happy to work with anyone to try and work out a way of making it happen.
I would certainly like to see a very good, substantial level of funding for the traders in Corrigan Town Centre.
Wouldn't disagree with you.
I think it's the level of cost that they're being asked for. So, that can be helped in any way, so, that can help.
Well, yeah. Darren, do you know where we are right now?
Yes, so I think...
Use the mic.
Yes, so I think, there we go. From memory, I think the business crime team came round and met with some of the businesses